Billy Idol's new album, Dream Into It, is finally out. Let's review it here on the Vinyl Jukebox. What's up, everyone? It's Ben from the Vinyl Jukebox, and if you haven't done so already, please be sure to leave a like and a comment below this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. Alright, so this is the 9th studio album from 69-year-old Billy Idol, and it was released through Dark Horse Records and BMG, and it's his first LP since the Kings and Queens of the Underground LP released in 2014. And it's his first new music since the KGP in 2022. He also released the Roadside EP shortly before that. And musicians on this album, I mean, it's kind of a super group if you ask me. Stevestevens on lead guitar, longtime collaborator with Billy Idol. He was on all of his biggest hits in the 80s. Chris Chaney from Jane's Addiction and now AC/DC on bass. And Josh Freese from the Foo Fighters, he's on drums. So really great lineup of musicians here. And from interviews that I saw, Billy describes this album as a story of his life. I mean, it's a very personal album to him. And if you listen carefully to the lyrics, it kind of describes his upbringing through music and through the years, his successes and failures and all the challenges that came along the way. And this album explores a lot of different genres. I mean, you have your rock, obviously. There's a lot of pop sounding music on this album, some new wave, and a lot of 80s synth kind of throughout the whole album. So a little bit of a throwback from Billy, if you ask me. And the album is 34 minutes and 50 seconds in length, so a pretty short album, but you'd probably expect that from a punk rocker like Billy Idol. Let's go through the album. So I decided to just pick up the regular black edition of the album, but here you see the really cool Dark Horse Records label there. I decided to keep the shrink wrap on, but really cool photograph of Billy on the front. I mean, all of his albums kind of feature that. But just opening this up, I mean, it's pretty simple packaging, only one LP. We have the inner sleeve with the lyrics on it, and we have credits on the album as well. And just taking out the record, we have just regular plain black wax, like I said. No other inserts or anything in this album. I mean, pretty bare bones. And it was a pretty good price too. I mean, you know, I remember this only being around $20. So I decided to pick it up on vinyl, but you have a really cool shot of Billy and Steven. What would have been kind of cool on this would be to get maybe some studio shots of some of the musicians, because I mean, there's a lot of aside from the musicians that I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of really great features on this album too, so it would have been cool to get some studio shots, but I guess that's the direction that they decided to take. Going track by track here, the album starts with the title track, Dream Into It, which is kind of a slow pop synthy kind of song. To be honest, I was kind of caught off guard by it. I thought Billy was going to start out with a really fast rocker, but this is kind of a slower song to start with. You know, I can't say it's my favorite on the album, to be honest, but an interesting way to start the album. Song number 2 is a track called 77. It was the second single released from the album. And what was really interesting about this, and kind of caught me by surprise as well, was when the single was released, it was released featuring Avril Lavigne on co-vocals with Billy Idol, which, to be honest, I wasn't too much of a fan of. I mean, they added a lot of distortion to her vocals, a lot of editing I could tell was involved. And to be honest, I didn't think that she added anything to the track, but when I received the LP, I noticed that she wasn't on any of the album credits, whether it was for the song or just the album in general, and all the other features had, you know, their respective artists credited. So I was a little confused. Then when I put the album on, I noticed that it was just Billy on the track. So maybe it was a late feature. They decided to add it for the single. But if you stream the album, only the Avril Lavigne version is available. So that was really interesting, but to be honest, I like this track a whole lot better with just Billy on it. I think that he does a great job. It's a really cool pop punk rocker. It would have been a great way to start the album, maybe a great way to start side 2 of the LP, but you know, that's the direction they chose to go in. Then we have the third song, Too Much Fun, which is a real fast rocker, very autobiographical. If you listen to the lyrics, Billy kind of takes you through all of his life circumstances there. Killer guitar solo on that track. I have to say, Stevestevens really goes all out on this album. To be honest, I think his guitar parts were my favorite part of the album. Catchy chorus on Too Much Fun though, so I really like that song. awesome Billy Idol track. Track number 4 is John Wayne. Now this track features Alison Mosshart from The Kills, also The Dead Weather, and she starts the song. So usually on a feature you get the guest musician maybe joining in for the choruses or maybe just the second verse, but she actually starts this song, which I thought was kind of an odd choice, but that's the way that they decided to go. This track's really interesting also because it features Brian Tichy on drums and also Derek Sherinian on keyboards. So this song, more of a slow ballad type of song, nice groove to it, but the solo, the guitar solo, definitely saves this song, strongest part in my opinion. And like I said, Steve Stevens just absolutely shreds on this album. Track number 5 is Wild Side. Now this one features Joan Jett. It's kind of a straight up pop song in my opinion, but I really have to say there was way too much auto-tune on Joan Jett's vocals. I mean, they really weren't needed. I know that Joan's voice is still pretty strong. I mean, I saw her in concert about 15 years ago, but I've seen recent videos and she could still sing. So I don't know why they would have needed to put that many effects on her voice. They didn't do that for Billy, so I don't know why they would have needed that for Joan. To be honest, I think this is one of the weaker songs on the album. It's a straight up pop song, so to be completely honest, I would have expected Billy to maybe bring in a pop artist. I know he's worked a lot with Miley Cyrus recently, so maybe she would have been a better fit on this song, but Joan Jett, the combination just didn't really work for this song in my opinion. Track number 6 is People I Love. Now this is a softer punk rocker kind of song. Catchy melody, but not very memorable. And you'll find with this album that a lot of the songs, you kind of, they're songs to nod your head to, but they're not very memorable. Like thinking back on it, I could probably only really remember like 2 or 3 songs from this album, just thinking about it. I've listened to this album maybe 4 or 5 times since getting it. Track number 7, Gimme the Weight, another soft punk rocker, very 80s sounding, sounds like something that might have been out of a movie soundtrack. Again, not very memorable. Track number 8, I'm Your Hero, slow ballad, very nice acoustic guitar solo from Steve Stevens, but slower ballad from Billy. I mean, these kinds of songs don't really do it for me. For Billy, I like to hear those like hard rockers from him, as I'm sure many of you do as well. And then track number 9, this is my favorite song on the album, and this was the lead single. This is Still Dancing. And this song, when I heard it, when they released this and they announced the album, I got really excited because this song sounds, it's very reminiscent of rebelyell. In fact, the guitar parts are very, very similar. Best song in the album, in my opinion. This really set my expectations really high for this album because I was like, oh yeah, Billy's back. He's back with a really hard rocker. I love this. Can't wait to get the album. I wish there were more songs on the album like this. I think this would have done well as a lead track for the album. I'm not sure why he decided to have it as the last track on the album. Very strange. Kind of reminds me of how Ozzy put Shot in the Dark as the last song on the Ultimate Sin album. That was like the lead single from that album. So very strange for Billy. I'm curious as to why he picked this track listing. Probably has something to do with that whole story of his life idea. But yeah, very interesting choice. All right, everybody, so here's my take. So this album is still growing on me. I mean, when I first heard it, I was like, oh no, I was very disappointed. But after a few listens, it's starting to grow on me, and I'm starting to like songs on it that I didn't really care for the first time around. I still wish it was a little heavier, more rocking. I think that at times it's too soft, too poppy, and it doesn't really sound characteristic of Billy Idol. I mean, I know that he did a lot of pop stuff in the 80s, but even for now, it sounds a little forced, some of this pop sound for him. Like I said, my expectations were very high from the first single, and to be honest, the rest of the album did not even come close to those expectations. Maybe 77 a little bit, but that's really the only track that came close. It's a good album for him. I mean, he's 69 years old, but like I said, I don't think it's very memorable. Not an album that I think I'm going to be going back to too often, but I'm hoping for even more new music. I mean, I loved the EPs that he was putting out a few years ago. and I think that he has a lot more in the tank. I saw him a few years ago live in concert, and he sounds phenomenal live. His voice is still there, and his voice is still there on the album too. It's just, I don't think the songs really match up to his, you know, prior material for sure. But be sure to catch Billy on tour with Joan Jett this summer. I'm sure that he'll put on a great show as always. And he has Steve Stevens in his band, Billy Morrison. So it's just going to be a great show all around. All right, everyone, there you have it. That's my review of Billy Idol's Dream Into It. And let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this album? What did you think when you first heard it? Is it still growing on you too? Is this your favorite Billy Idol album? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to leave a like and a comment below this video. Subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.